Every single Thursday throughout the school year, moms, community members, people who just want to help out, come and pack food. And this food, every single one of those bags, going towards a kid right here in our community who might not have a meal over the weekend when they're away from school. This is AZ Brainfood, and the idea, the spark to make a change in the community in which we live. I've got the story for you right now on MOMCAST. All the way back.
All the way back.
AZ Brainfood. The idea first came about, wasn't it you were reading a newspaper article? What was it?
No, first I was talking to a teacher.
That's what it was.
A teacher. And he was telling me about, he had kids coming to school on Mondays who were, the word he used was ravenous. So he would take his time and his money and feed these kids on Monday mornings. And then I was sitting there getting my hair cut, reading an article, and I saw the story of a woman in Carson City, Nevada, who said her daughter had a friend in school who was going hungry on the weekends, and so she decided to take this little girl a bag of food just to feed herself on the weekends. And I thought, that's the answer. If they have hungry kids in school on the weekends, then let's help them by taking them a bag of food on Friday, let them take it home on the weekend, feed themselves to come back Monday, and then they won't have to go through this whole feed you and take time out on Monday morning. So they'll be ready to study.
So you got this idea from talking to a teacher, but something like this had never been done in the state of Arizona.
Not that I know of. I don't know that. Yeah.
So how did you get it going? Because this is something that was new to our state, new to the Valley.
You know, I just talked with a sister who was on the school board at the time, and I said, what about this, you know? And she took it to the superintendent, and they kind of gave the thumbs up. And I talked with a few friends and family, and, you know, got some money put together so that the following fall, we start in the fall when school starts, that we could actually start in 2 schools. So we started that first year, 2009. We're just finishing our 17th year this year.
Can you believe that 17 years later? And when you started in 2009, because again, this is a pretty new concept to the Valley especially,
right.
You know, how was that having conversations with the school districts?
You know what, the time we were just making this up. We didn't know what we're doing, right? We're just making it up. Had no idea this would last. And had no thoughts in our minds that it would, or plans like, hey, let's just keep doing this. It was just kind of like, right now, let's feed these kids right now. So we started with the two schools in 2009.
Oh my
2
gosh.
schools in May. So the worst ones that we could, as far as free and reduced, they were 99% free and reduced lunch plans. And by the end of the very first year, we had 11 schools going.
Oh my God.
And that just happened because schools would say to us, hey, we also need help. We need help. And then I would also then get donations. As I got the funds to do it, we would add another school.
Now, 17 years later, how many schools are you serving?
We are serving now about 120 schools in 5 cities, Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe, Fountain Hills.
I mean, to have it's a little heartbreaking when you see that much growth, just because you know the need is so great, but to be able to provide that.
Right. You know, it used to be a while ago, before I started Brainfood, I kind of had this thought, like, if I don't know, if I don't pay attention to what's going on out there, then I won't feel it. Kind of like, because you do feel it if you see it.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And then it just came to a point where, okay, you have to help. And then once you help, it's kind of like, now this is bliss, because you're helping so many families and kids, and you're like, this is way better than ignoring the problem.
When you first put together your food bag for the weekend, what were you thinking to include? Because you have 4 kids of your own, so you know what these kids are going to eat and what they're going to put aside.
Exactly.
What did you want to include?
You know, we did some, like, I would ask my kids, would you eat this? And it would be, we wanted to do brand names. We're not taking old food from, you know, somewhere like that.
They want.
I want them to be so thrilled to get that, open it up and eat that. It has to be Shelf stable. I want it to be as healthy as can be because that's hard to find out there. Something they can feed themselves because these are situations where they don't always have an adult to feed them.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the name Brain Food. Where did that come from? Why did you land on that?
It landed because our philosophy was that let's feed these kids so that they can be educated. Because they're coming from a life of poverty where they don't have money in the home to actually be fed fully. So the philosophy is let's feed them, educate them, let's break this poverty cycle, do with education. That's the goal.
It's so beautiful when you go back to when you first started it because it really was just started by a pack of moms. You just got your girlfriends. What did you talk to them about? What did you say to them to get everyone rallying around you, and how has it grown since then?
You know what? It wasn't a big sell.
No.
You said, hey,
right.
There's hungry kids. Okay, I'll help. You'll see when people show up today to help at the warehouse, there's no sign-ups. People just show up. They say, there's hungry kids, I'm gonna help. You know, if you saw a hungry child on the corner, you would say, how can I help? This is the way we have found them. We can find them in schools and everybody just comes to help. It's not a big sell.
So here we're in the warehouse, which you guys, this is where you've been pretty much from the start when you had to move into a bigger
For 16
space.
years, yes.
16 years.
Yes.
You have how many volunteers who come in here?
You know,
Every Thursday morning.
You know, between 80 and 100 will be here.
They'll show up, you guys pack all the bags, then what happens?
Yeah. So we'll pack today about 2,800 bags. There's volunteers who now take a school and will take their bins, their bags of food to the schools. So I don't know, 50 drivers and buses that take these food bags to the schools, let's say that, on Thursdays. On Friday, then the kids are given these bags discreetly put in their backpacks for them to take home and feed themselves, fix their own meals and feed themselves over the weekend. They are fed during the week, right, at the schools. So it's the weekend that we're concerned with.
I can only imagine because I've heard some of the stories. More on my conversation with the creator of AZ Brainfood, Ruth Collins, right after this. You're watching MOMCAST.
MOMCAST is sponsored by Moxie Pest Control, protecting what matters most.
You know what I didn't know when we started Brainfood? I thought, we are going to take food to these kids, right? But what I didn't know was that now there's people at the schools looking out for these kids. So these kids now have friends or allies, is what I think of them as. And they see each other in school and they say hi and they, give each other a high five in the halls. And you know what? That's just been as important to have a friend in the school as the food for the weekend. It's something I hadn't thought about.
When did it start to really take off? Where you felt like the buzz around brain food was like, oh, like this is something that's going to really change the valley, change Arizona?
It started pretty early because I had a reporter from the Arizona Republic, a newspaper at the time, back in 2009, a guy named Ray Parker, who I haven't seen since. I don't know what happened to him, but he came to Brainfood and did an article on us. And this was the very first year, 2009. It was Thanksgiving time. He was doing kind of like a holiday feel-good story. Here's a bunch of, parents down here feeding kids kind of thing. It landed on the newspaper, front page, color picture. I wasn't expecting that. It was just, The very next day, I had 15 checks in my mailbox from that story, the very next day. And I had a guy come, so at the time we were so early that the address for Brainfood was still my home. It was still my home. So I had a guy literally walk up to my door and hand me $50 the very next day that the article came out. So I know, it was like, my gosh, like we're getting this help. It's how we were able to add more schools. But I was kind of like, okay, this is something worth doing.
And it obviously has proven true. I mean, we're close to getting to 20 years now. You not only, pair up with schools, but there's also local retailers who want to be in on this as well that you get donations from. What's that been like?
Well, the grocery stores we work with have been awesome. We've been working with Bashas' from the beginning. They give us food at cost, and they also give us a donation of a certain amount of money every year. We have the greatest bakery who makes us kind of smaller loaves of bread every week for these kids to take home. And they're this cute little freshly made the morning that we give them out bread. They're awesome.
When you talk to, I mean, the big part about this, the only way that you can do it is really by people donating. How do you convey your message of how important it is to keep this going, how badly we need this here?
Well, you know, the welfare of each of us is connected to the welfare of all of us. And I think we can all see that by us helping these kids, these families, it helps us back. If we're living in this city, Mesa's going to be better off if we take care of our own, right? It's just we're all in this together. I think people see that pretty easily. Like, our world is going to be a better place if we take care of the kids and families in our area.
Brainfood has seen the world change quite a bit. I mean, Brainfood went through the pandemic. Now we're going through inflation and rising prices everywhere. What have you noticed?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just grown and grown and grown.
We've had the craziest times with, you know, Red for Ed was on we had it where school was out, and through COVID. COVID was crazy because, okay, we have 80 people in here every week, and all of a sudden we can't have a group together. Yeah. But we still wanted to take these kids food because now the situation's even more dire. So we had to like scale it way back. A few of us come in here, keep our space, put our gloves and masks on, and be in here and put together bags. And then at the schools, when the kids were actually let out, we would go down there and let them do drive-through. If they wanted to come get their food back, they could come do drive-throughs. And I mean, we did our best during COVID just to make sure. You know what, at the time in COVID, I remember there were principals and teachers at the schools who were taking food bags to their kids at their home, dropping them at their door, making sure they had food. It kind of brought out this like very best in people, like, let's take care of these, let's get them their food, let's make sure. It was actually a very cool time, to see that.
It's pretty amazing because here in Mesa is where it started. I mean, this is where you're from, this is where your family is, but now you're seeing other cities want to replicate this exact same thing.
Yeah, I have people reach out to me all the time, and I say, okay, here's how we started, here's what we do, come look at the food, here's, I try to give them everything that we can. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can take our idea and go. The more cities that do this for themselves, I mean, the better, right?
Yeah. How do the next couple of years look for you guys? How do you keep up?
Well, we have decided that we're going to stay where we're at. We're feeding the East Valley. We're in, this warehouse, and we are going to maintain what we have. Our plan is to not grow. Yeah. Our plan is to, hey, we can feed this many people, then we think we're good, That's our plan, is just to do that.
When you look back on starting it and that initial conversation, I mean, can you believe that this is where it is almost 2 decades later?
Like I said, it wasn't the plan, but here's the thing about what I have found with Brainfood. It keeps giving back. It's kind of like people have said to me, when are you going to stop? When are you going to be done? I'm like, why would I? Yeah. This is something that I can do easily. Like, it's not because of how we've set it up. We have a lot of people with small jobs. It's not one huge responsibility on me. I'm not like, it's all on me. Yeah. We all have our parts. We all play our parts. We do our parts. We show up here every week, and we put this together. And what we receive from it is so much greater than what we put into it.
It's funny because I come out here so many times on Thursday mornings, and it really feels like a club. Like it's a bunch of gals. We've got some guys in here now too, catching up with each other and doing something good for the community that they live in.
Everybody loves to play a little part. Like, I think everybody loves to help and give back. They just don't know where exactly.
They don't know where to get started.
They don't know where. So Brainfood's a place you can come. Every bag you pack, is going to a child who will otherwise not eat on the weekend. It takes us just an hour and 15 minutes to put together 3,000 bags. It's like a quick in-out chit-chat with your friends and get out and do your thing.
The community impact has been huge, and it is echoing across the state of Arizona. More on my conversation at AZ Brainfood with the creator herself, Ruth Collins, after this break. You're watching MOMCAST.
MOMCAST is sponsored by Moxie Pest Control, protecting what matters most.
Recently, you guys, within the last couple of years, you hit the 1 million mark, the 1 millionth bag that you packed. Tell me about that day, because that was
fun. That was super fun. We had a countdown on the wall as we were making the bags. Yeah. As you made them, you'd punch the button and it would be, okay, 999. Yeah. Without it ever having been, hey, let's go for 1 million. It wasn't. It was just, oh my gosh, next year we're going to hit 1 million. Who would have guessed? And you have to celebrate that, because everybody here is a volunteer, and everybody here takes time and just comes here. Nobody gets paid. It's just one of those things that just like, yeah, that's worth celebrating. That's, that's kind of cool.
I want to know, are there any stories that you really cling on to of kids who really benefit from this, that you've heard, like through teachers, through whatever, any that just like, oh my gosh, this just fuels me?
We get these stories regularly. We ask the teachers to give them to us because it helps us to show people what's out there. Because if you're not going through this yourself, you can't even understand or imagine what's going on in these kids' lives that we hear about. I was just in a school and I saw this kid named Kenny, and he had gone through a lot of trauma in his life, as a lot of these kids do, with abuse and neglect and mental illness with parents. And he had been labeled as a slow learner. But when one of the gals at the school got a hold of him and started giving him brain food and paying attention to him, he wasn't actually a slow learner. He just had trauma in his life. So by the time he got to 5th and 6th grade, now he's in regular classes. He's not in slow learner classes. And I remember seeing him. When you see these kids, you just want to hug them. You want to bawl your eyes out because of just things that they're going through that nobody should go through, especially at that age, because it can't, And you just want to hug them. And there's 3,000 of those every week. You're just like,
Week after week. And that's the thing, is you come in here and it is so happy. It's so energetic. Yeah. You guys get music going. Everyone's out doing something good for someone. But when you get to like the crux of it, the whole idea that some child needs food on a weekend because they don't have it, it tears you apart a little bit.
It does. If you think about it, sends you into tears. But the good thing about it, the joyful thing, is like we can say, hey, we're in every school in Mesa. We know that every kid is looked out for in the schools. If they're hungry, we're going to take care of them. So that's what makes me happy, I guess. I think that's why there's joy in this building.
You go through every single bag, and it's kind of amazing to think like how happy this is going to make some little kid who can put together these meals all by themselves.
By themselves.
Empowering them in that way is so beautiful, Ruth.
I know, so good. And they feel happy about, if they have family at home, whatever their situation, they feel kind of proud that they get to help. They bring this food back home and they get to help the family eat that weekend.
So how does it work, like logistically? Who qualifies and who makes that decision? Is it just the educators tell you this is how many kids we have? How does it work?
We let every school decide. So we have a liaison at every school we go to. They come here every year. We train them, tell them what we're looking for. So we are looking for kids who will otherwise not eat. If there are kids who, if you give them the bag, they take it home and they throw it in the corner, they don't need it, that's not the kid we're looking for. We're looking for the kid who's like, this is what I'm eating this weekend. That's who. And every school, we've been in there long enough, the administration, everybody knows to be looking out for these kids. They reach out to the parents, the guardians, whoever's in charge of this kid and say, hey, can we help you? Do you guys need any help? And if not, great. And if we can, we're happy to, So we let the schools determine which kids They don't tell us. All they do is give us a number every week. Okay, Johnson Elementary, they'll email us every week and say, we need 12 bags this week. Next week, we need 15 bags. These kids fluctuate. They move in and out of schools if they're in sometimes they're in a weird homeless situations and stuff. So they travel a bit. So schools change their numbers quite a bit. So we have them let us know every week how many kids at that school.
And that makes it a little complicated for you guys then, to make sure that you not only have enough food, but you're getting the numbers right and everything.
We have kind of an idea. So we go with our best idea and it works out.
When you talk to your volunteers, what do you hear from them? I mean, they must just love being here.
They do love it. They just said, I was just talking to a friend who said, I just love coming in. Feel like I get my service in. I feel like it's worth my while. Everybody likes to do an hour of service every once in a while. So
it's interesting because there's studies and there's obviously mantras, but really you find true joy in service. Is that what you found with Brainfood?
Absolutely. Everything you give comes back to you tenfold. It is pure joy. It is awesome.
When you think about, at some point, passing the torch and giving Brainfood on to the next generation, what do you want that to look like?
We're already in the middle of doing that. We've added, we call the next geners onto our board. So we have 5 or 6 of that age group learning the ropes and adding their energy to what we're doing right now. They have great ideas. It's people with, say, young kids in the school right now, so they're interested in making sure the peers around them are fed. These are people who their roots are here and they have resources here and they're like, we'll help. So we're not transitioning out, but we're actually preparing the next group.
You've lived here your whole life. You're from here. Family's from here. When did you, I can only imagine creating something like this in the community that you grew up in the schools that you went to. I just feel like you're enveloped now in this community, even more so than you were.
I grew up here not knowing that this was a problem, but now looking back, I think there were some kids at my school that were going through this. But I loved growing up here in Mesa, loved everything about it. I raised my own kids here. And I feel like being able to give back like this is just, it's my duty, it's my, responsibility, it's my love. I love doing it. I love being able to do it.
And if you want to do it too, go to azbrainfood.org. You can look at volunteer opportunities, ways to donate, schools that they serve, ask questions, and get involved. Thanks for watching this episode of MOMCAST with AZ Brainfood. I'm Emma Jade. We'll see you next week.
MOMCAST is sponsored by Moxie Pest Control, protecting what matters most.